Now let's visit two of the most influential animals in the history of this planet. They've shaped the forests, they've shaped the landscape, and have done so for eons. The ant and the earthworm. They're so important that there are two branches of science dedicated solely to them. Myrmecology, a big word, the science of studying ants. Oligoketology, another big word, the science of studies of the earthworm. Without them, agriculture and food production as we know it would be impossible. They also make fabulous pets, but they need special places to live, and this is where the wild science kits are so perfect. Now, let's visit the earthworm. Now they're all around us here in this forest. Just under the surface of the soil they are pulling down dead leaves which enrich the soil. The tunnels they dig drain water away so this part of the forest doesn't flood. I have a small fork, and if I'm careful I should be able to catch some. There's one here. Yes, this is a good one. Now I'm going to take him out. There they are, two of the most influential individuals on the planet, earthworms. I might have called them he. In fact, they are he and she at the same time. They're hermaphrodite. They have both male and female organs. Now I'm going to get them out of the sun, get them out of the light so the ultraviolet doesn't hurt them. Put them in with my other worms, like so, and a little scattering of soil over the top. And I'm going to put the lid on. Well, we have our worms and we have our worm soil. So now it's time to go back to the lab. Welcome to the Wild Science Laboratory. I brought the worms from the forest, and here we have the Wild Science Worm Farm. Now I'd like to show you something rather special about this Wild Science Worm Farm. Now if you come in closely, you'll see what I've done. You can see soil, yellow, soil, red, soil, yellow, and soil. So what do those coloured layers mean? What are they made of? This is the answer. In the kit, you get 2 special packets of coloured sand that the worms can eat. Now as the worms move through the soil, they eat it. This is a little bit rude. They poo in Technicolor. We can see exactly where they've been by the coloured trails. Now this is fun, but it's also very scientific. Scientists and farmers want to know how active different sorts of worms are at ploughing up or churning up their soil. And this is a great scientific way of doing it. Now, our worm farm is about ready for the worms to move in. Now, when you're transferring your worms to your newly prepared worm farm, you need to use wet hands. We don't use the tweezers, we just use wet hands because it doesn't damage the worms. Worms are completely harmless. I'm going to dig around in here very gently. Ah, there's a beautiful one. There we are. There's one here. I'm going to drop it straight in, like so. Let's see if I can find another one. Here's another one. Look at that one. There's an Olympic athlete of worms. I'm going to put him in at this end. Now I have some nice dirty water here. I'm going to use the pipette that's in the kit. And I'm going to take some water and I'm going to soak the surface of the soil. Here we are. I'm going to squirt it around on the surface because the soil has dried out a little bit while we've been filming this. Just going to get another 3 mils. I'll be back. Here's some more water over this side. There we are, just making sure everything is nice and moist. Now, how many worms do we need in the kit? About 6 or 7 of the size that I've put in here, but you can put in more or less. And these worms are both male and female at the same time, so we're pretty sure of getting some worm eggs. Now it's time to finish off our worm farm. As you can see, the worms have disappeared, but we can't see them in the window. The reason is worms don't like bright light. So we've made a special privacy screen, and that just slides in like so. Now the worms are in darkness, and they will come right up to the window and burrow. When we want to look at them, all we do is lift the slider and let it go down. I'm going to put the lid on, and it's done. We can go away and leave our worms. Here we are back again. It's been about an hour, and I'm going to see what the worms have been up to. Take the lid off, have a look, and the worms have gone, and that is just great, because now we can do some experiments. Here's a key. Now, a few years ago, some archaeologists in Britain were digging up Viking remains, about 1,000 years old they were, and they discovered some car keys in amongst those remains. And they asked the question, do you think the Vikings drove Volvos? And of course, probably not. But how did those keys get down there? And the answer is earthworms. Earthworms churn the soil up so much that they can bury things, particularly keys or coins. Now, farmers and scientists really want to know how fast and how far earthworms move soil. We can do it right now. I'm going to put this key, I don't really need this key, that's lucky, because I'm going to put it down there on the surface of the soil. We'll see how far it disappears. Just for fun, a 1-cent coin. I'm going to put it in here. There we are. And maybe if I dig it up in 1,000 years' time, it might actually be worth something. Okay. But how can we track where those things are? If they disappear into the soil, how can we see them? How do we know where they are? Well, here's a little experiment of mine. This is a tiny magnet. And here is a tiny compass. Can you see? If I put the magnet in the soil there, just on top, I can find out exactly where it is in the soil using my compass. You don't have to have a magnet. You can bury a nail or a pin or something like that. It will still work if you have a compass. And finally, just for fun, I got my own piece of treasure from an old coat. It's a button. Looks a bit Viking-y. I'm going to put that in there too. Now I've just thought of another activity. These are seeds. Some gardeners believe that worms eat their seeds when they plant them, so they don't like them. But we can find out if that's true. I have 10 mung bean seeds here. We can scatter them on the surface of the soil and see what happens. 1, 2, 8, 9, 10. If the worms churn the soil, they will bury them and they'll grow. If the worms eat the seeds, they'll eat them and they won't grow. And now I'm going to put the lid on and I'm going to leave them for 2 or 3 days and we'll see what happens. And now it's time to do some fun experiments with our worms. And these are the sort of experiments we never ever mistreat a worm. Now, these little worms in here, they have no eyes, they have no legs, they have no mouth, they have no tongue, and yet they can do an amazing range of things. Remarkable creatures. Let's have a look to see if they can see. Now, Here we have a white plate, some black card. I'm going to cover half of the plate with black card so it's in shade. If I put worms in there, we know worms don't like light, that's why we use the sliders. If they can see, they should move from the light into the dark. First, I'll put some water in just to wet the surface as they move around, because worms don't like dry surfaces. Then, I'm going to put the card across half the bowl, so it's shady on one side. Now I wet my fingers, and I go looking for a performing worm. And here is one, and now I'm going to put them, there he is, into the dish. Let's find another one. Here's another one. Let's see if they can see. And now we're going to explore another one of the great mysteries about worms. How can they sense taste? If you get a magnifying glass and you look at a little worm's head, it has a mouth just like a hole. There are no lips, there are no teeth, and there's no tongue. And yet scientists say that they can tell taste. Well, we can test it ourselves. I have some foods here: apple, carrot, soap. Well, maybe the worm can tell the difference between them. I also have water, but I'm going to start with a piece of card. Now on this card I'm going to do 2 lines using a pencil, because a pencil is carbon, it's not lead, it's carbon and it's not poisonous. Just like this. And I'm going to write S for soap, W for water, C for carrot, A for apple. Now I'm going to wet it because the worms are going to crawl around on this piece of card, and we know they don't like a dry surface. I'm wetting both surfaces to stop it from bending up, and I'm going to put that in our little dish, like so. Then I'm going to get carrot. I'm going to rub it on the surface. I'm going to get apple and rub it on the apple surface. And I'm going to get soap, and we're going to leave the water. Now we're going to put our performing worms on board, and we'll see where they go. Now you see the worms are avoiding the soap, and they're going for the carrot, apple and water areas. Now they're under studio light, so they're not really very happy here. But the interesting thing is worms have chemoreceptors. That's things that can feel or detect chemicals all over their body. And of course taste is a sense of chemicals. So if their tail is in something nice like a piece of apple, they can turn around and eat it because they can taste all over their body. We can only taste with our tongue. Now, if you'd like to know more about the activities that we've just done with this kit, all you have to do is look in the booklet, and the booklet comes in the box. Here's the key and coin activity called worm churn. Here's the activity to do with a sense of taste. And there are many, many more activities in here. Lots more. Now you can do something else with this kit. You see at the side, we have these black rubber ports. You just take one off, put a tube on, and you can join this kit with any of the other kits in the ecosystem range. And yes, worms do travel through the tubes at night. That's why they're called night crawlers. Now you can learn more about those kits by visiting our other videos on wildscience.net. Thanks for joining me in the Wild Science Lab. See you next time.